call the meeting to order.
Jenkins,
Here.
Hahn,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
McKinley,
Yes.
Earl.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the first thing that we have on this evening's agenda is a presentation by DeWitt County Development Council. Ruth, you have the floor.
Thanks. I've invited Ken Yalen, our board president, and Kevin Myers, our board secretary, to tell you what we've been up to.
Thanks for having us this
Yes,
evening.
sir.
Thanks for making time.
It's that time of year again where we're seeking the funding for the Development Council. And Kevin's got a few comments to make regarding the council and so forth. And then you have a decision to make.
Just brief overview of the year 2014. DCDC works closely with Larry Wooling on economic development opportunities in the Farmer City area, participates in the chamber meetings, attends the TIF meetings, and over 21% of all the businesses, existing businesses that were visited by DCDC and our staff were from Farmer City. We had 47 prospective businesses that we worked with in 2014, countywide. In 2010, Ruth Stauffer, our executive director, secured $110,950 from a USDA grant for a revolving loan fund. That's been successful. It's for gap financing to assist DeWitt County businesses, and we've loaned out over $150,000 since 2010, and we've had no defaults on the loan program to date. About $30,000 is still available due to repayment over time, and we'd like to make that available to any Farmer City businesses. So if you know anybody that needs some gap financing, or if you find that useful, please send them our way. Our budget, our funding, our total annual operating expenses are about $110,000. Currently, we have no reserve funds available at this time. The county has provided funding for this year in the amount of $40,000, which they had historically. The City of Clinton has provided $47,000, which they've also done historically. And Farmer City has provided $13,000 annually in the past, and we're requesting that you budget that again for this cycle. We're very grateful for receiving past funding from the city and also from some private entities, More Wanted Farm Management, Baum Chevrolet Buick, Exelon, Farmer City State Bank, Farmer City Chamber, and Monsanto. We're currently in the process of meeting with other private entities to drum up support, and I'll turn it back over to Ken.
We have some plans for some private, hopefully some additional private funding, and we're working toward that end this year as well. And we would ask that you see fit to include the $13,000 in your budget.
And I think Ruth's got a summary, a more detailed summary of what we worked on in the past year for Farmer City that she'll hand out there.
Any questions?
Any council have any questions?
Of the money you said you rented out, has any other businesses from Farmer City talked to you about anything?
I don't know, Ruth would have to answer that.
We've had a number of businesses talk to us, but no one's made an application yet. And we're over here a lot encouraging them to do that.
I believe we've loaned out to 3 businesses and over 100, is that right?
Over 100 in the first year and a half came and talked to us.
Made
about it.
inquiries about it.
The pharmacy
No,
is
for
for the whole county.
the county.
How much
And-
for Farmer City, so that's kind of.
Oh, I don't have any numbers for Farmer City, but I know that we're still, the pharmacy said that they'll probably come to us with something, and Ginger has talked to us off and on about when she's ready, she's gonna apply over at Party in a Pinch. We haven't turned anybody down in Farmer City to fill out an application.
Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Go ahead and call.
Jenkins,
Yes?
Klein,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
McKinley, Pearl,
Yes.
motion carried.
There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 947, amending ordinance 504 pertaining to animals.
I'll second.
Discussion.
We're bringing this back at you in the same format that it was approximately 30 days or so ago. And I think that there was a question, I wasn't here when this came up, and I think there was a question about extreme weather conditions, that terminology. And that had been taken from several other model ordinances and put into this. I guess, gentlemen, the best way to put that is, you don't have your children outside during extreme weather conditions, and so therefore, you have to have a level thought process when you're discussing that. And if you don't have your kids out in it, and if you're not out in it, then an animal should not be out in it. You can have an ordinance that is so tight that, you list every single thing. But we thought when we presented this the first time, that this had a little bit of common sense invested into it, to where people would be more apt to accept something like this instead of something that's airtight. So we're bringing it back at you again.
Sounds good.
Any questions or any other discussion?
Mayor, also let me just throw out there, when I say we're bringing it back at you, it's because the general public asked if we would
Yes,
do
yes.
so.
Yeah, and when it came up first, we were concerned about the extreme, weather conditions, that clause, to see if that would cover. And I looked at some other communities, stuff like that. This is very similar for them, and it helps people enforce, our officers enforce it without having to be quibbling about what is on the temperature there. So I think this is the way to go.
Is this going to take a complaint to be enforced, or is it going to be enforced if the officer sees it? How are we going to play this over here?
Well, I would assume that if it's 30 below and the officer saw an animal out and knew the owner, that the officer would take some type of corrective action. I can tell you that before this ordinance was in place, before the presentation was made by the citizen, I got some phone calls at home. I called the officer, asked him to drive by there, and the officer did go to those properties, knocked on the door, and asked the person to put the dogs in. That was back when we were having extreme weather conditions. So I think that it's a very workable ordinance.
Well, the only thing, Larry, is it seems like some of the ordinances we have on the books, you have to make that complaint before the ordinance ever gets in. Anybody's going to do anything about it, which I don't like. If there's a violation, you can see the violation, then I think you need to take care of it.
And I'll just go back to explain that is the way, though, that our city attorneys have asked us to do it
Okay,
before.
which city attorneys? We can go back, we use Worth Pikeman, Greg Gaming?
Miller Tracy Braun would ask us, they're down in Monticello at the time, now our city attorney's in Champaign, and so they would ask that you have a complainant, and that way you know that if they're going to drive from Champaign or they're going to go to Monticello to go to the courthouse, that there's going to be some follow through with it. That's why they always ask that a citizen put a complaint in writing. That's where it came from. No, it doesn't go back to work.
But if he calls, somebody calls you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily have to put it in writing.
They wanted it in writing before, yes.
But I think the reason people don't complain is because they feel there's gonna be retaliation, and their name's gonna come up. And it might not, but still, they feel there's gonna be retaliation. So,
Well, there would be a lot of things that don't get taken care of if everybody worried about retaliation, not only just an ordinance violation, so.
yeah, well, there's, yeah,
I
there's,
mean, we would live in a mum society.
well, where I don't know.
Huh?
I understand what you're saying, but you understand what I'm saying too.
Yeah,
We're
yes.
sitting here, it's a stalemate, isn't it?
No,
We're not going anyplace. Because somebody doesn't want to complain, then we're gonna sit there and keep breaking the law, and keep breaking the law, and keep breaking the law, and it doesn't, so somewhere along the line, I guess we have to step up.
Way, fix it somehow, we can, if we've been called to a certain place twice and no complaint written, we can do that, I want to look into that.
I don't necessarily think we need to have a written complaint. I mean, if this is, we need to ask our attorney in this particular, is this against the law for some reason? And if it's not, we shouldn't have to have a
Well,
written
it
complaint.
is, I think you're getting into an area.
and part of the two,
We're
fellas,
mistreating an animal. I think.
on some ordinance violations,
No, I mean,
in
the
criminal law,
ordinance itself.
police officers are not to be alarmed or disturbed. It's in the statutes, and so that's why you need a complaint, not the officers.
You need a complaint to have teeth in the court of law. However, correct me if I'm wrong, if a police officer's driving down the street, it's 30 below zero, it's freezing rain, it's horrible outside. You see a dog tied to a tree, obviously, that's an ordinance violation, if you will. They have every right to go up. I mean, if they see a crime or breaking the law, breaking an ordinance, they have every right to go up to it. So, I would hope.
And there is a difference between a crime in progress and something that
I know,
third party twice.
I think the councilman's absolutely right. Sometimes we get complaint after complaint about
Let me
chickens.
give you an example. Going to Bloomington, and I was there one day at somebody's house, and this person's, their daughter came over, and she was parked across the sidewalk. Policeman drove by, boom, nailed her with a ticket for parking across the sidewalk and everything, and stopped and did that. I didn't take a complaint. Also, I knew somebody else that was washing their screens and they had a water shortage. You know, and they had sanctions on that and everything. And they were washing their screens outside of their house and their windows. And the police came by and gave him a ticket for doing that because he was illegal. I thought that was kind of, especially who it was for and everything, but it was kind of funny. Now, I don't know. I just look at other places. What do you know, we compare ourselves to all the towns around, and I read the paper, and some of these little towns around, they're doing things that there's no complaint. They're just going out and saying, hey, you're violating the law. We've got an ordinance that says you're not supposed to be doing this, and we're going to, you're going to stop. And
Not going once, twice, just
no,
one time.
one time. This is it.
When I lived in Urbana, if their
We
backyard was
don't
messed up,
complain.
you got a ticket.
When we're going out the interstate issuing tickets for speeding, there's nobody coming back in complaining about that. We're just going out writing tickets because we're catching somebody speeding. You know, I mean, how do you want to look at this whole thing? I mean, you start complaining. You know, I think law in the books. You sit there and take care of it. It's called for.
I agree. I think that there's a law, it should be enforced. I actually, regardless of the fact if somebody complains about it or not.
That's right.
It's law. But, very good. Does any other questions or statements concerning ordinance 947? Call it.
Han,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution 2015-8, Farmer City Raceway donation from the hotel motel account in the amount of $3,000 for the Junior Kemmler Memorial Race.
Also,
Discussion.
I wasn't gonna vote for this, but I'm gonna vote for it now because it's coming out of the hotel motel tax. But also let the word be out that maybe that the Farmer City Race Association ought to look at maybe doing something to earn the money themselves. And coming off and begging onto the council, to me, is getting old by a lot of things. That money is there for that, but they can also try to do something to offset it by doing whatever. I'm there, stand in line, eat their pork chop, biscuits and gravy, or pancakes and sausage, or whatever they want to have, spaghetti dinner. But I think they need to try to take care of this themselves from now on.
I've never paid attention to how full is the hotel when it comes to the big weekend of racing.
I didn't pay any attention to the hotel, but Emo said his business triples. Now, this particular race is not like the big race, the Illini, that we're trying to get it to that point. Now, the Illini 100, over a 2-day event, is probably going to bring 3,000 to 6,000 people to town. And you'll have campers out there, many campers out there. This race here is in between, sandwiched in between 3 races, 2 of them being at Fairbury, 1 of them being in Quincy. And what we're hoping for, me and the guys running out there, that we can get these big name drivers to stop here also. Because they're already going to show up at Fairbury for the big race. That's Prairie Dirt, which is 26,000 to win over 2 days. So they had over 50 late model cars at that race last year, which is a big number for that kind of race. We're trying to build this race up to that level. If that happens, I don't think if it ever gets to that level, they won't have enough bleachers out there. But that's what the goal is.
That's good for the community.
Yeah, they're going to buy beer, they're going to buy hot dogs, they're going to ice. Yeah. Now, it's not
That's where
necessarily.
they can have their fundraiser, they can have
Yeah.
50-50 thing, you know?
Yeah. I see the town of Fairbury embracing the racing up there. I don't see it here. Matter of fact, the guy that won the Prairie Dirt Classic last year got his picture taken at the bank with the sign. They have a parade of cars the day of or the day before the big race, where they actually take these race cars and parade them down Main Street. Now they, like I say, Fairbury embraces it. I think we ought to go toward that direction.
You got a good backing, in other words.
Any other discussion? Paula?
Harden,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yeah.
Pearl,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Han,
Yes.
motion carried.
And now we move to section 4, other items, the city manager's report.
I had reported at the last council meeting that City Hall was going through the Standards & Poor's credit update. And you see here that we did get the results back just a couple days ago. And our credit status has gone up and went from an A+ to an AA-, which is very good. There's several factors involved in that. And if you'd like, I can make copies of the report and give it to you. There was a question that had been raised during our budget meeting about the water meters being installed. And so I went back and Calvin looked, and for the month of March, he's installed 38 water meters. And so far, he's been here just over a year and 2 months. And under his tenure, we've got 134 water meters in. And at $200 a whack, you can see that's $26,800. So we are plugging away at that. The Richardson Street water main is going pretty well. We had one complaint about mud on the road. Well, it wasn't mud when it was put there, but we had a brief shower. The contractor scraped it down as good as he could. Bullard Street will be closed tomorrow. They're going to do a live tap. So that water main is going to be hooked into the Bullard Street water main here real soon. That live tap will be obviously dependent on how much rain and stuff we get tomorrow and tonight. Electrical department, again, they're plugging away. They're installing Rado read meters. Wally's going to get a couple cases ordered right away. And also I put on here about disconnects. You know, we put on Facebook and we'd advertise as much as we could. We took a hit for it, but as soon as the weather gets cold, some people quit paying their utility bills because they realize that we cannot disconnect them. Those utility bills continue, and some will go, depending on as soon as it gets cold, it could be October, it could be November or whatever. And just recently, we were allowed to do some disconnects. Some utility bills were $1,800 or more. But anyway, by the time we got done, we got that down to 10 or so people. And currently, from the disconnects, there's only one that hasn't come up and made any kind of arrangements. And we do work with people. We're not so cold that we don't, set them up with a payment plan or help them out all we can. And we make referrals to outside agencies to help them get their utility bill paid. Street Department's putting in some signs. If you go out by the big green building, you see that they've got all those old wood chips and some dirt spoils out there. They found a gentleman that is, I think he technically may be in Piatt County out here, east of Farmer City, that said that he'll take all he can get as long as we truck it there. So as time allows, they're trucking some of that up there to get rid of that. I did talk to the Casey's rep today to find out what's going on with Casey's. We haven't heard anything for a while. Looks like this may be the month. Again, that's all going to depend on whether they're ready to go. So, it's their property, so they'll get there whenever they can. Farnsworth Group will be out here at South Park someday this week. We got to set the elevation so that bathhouse can get started. I think if you went out there over the weekend, you see just how important South Park has become between the Easter egg hunt, baseball doubleheader, and BMX races all going on in one day. It would be great to get that bathhouse done. So the water main has passed through the EPA, so now we have drinkable water out there. We're going to get some of the yard hydrants that need to be replaced. None of them work. We're going to get those replaced, and we might do that on the 19th when we have that city cleanup day out there. So, and one thing I wanted to throw out to you fellows to think about is that Pharmacy is kind of unique that we own our own utilities. We seem to have a continual problem with vandalism on city-owned property. And that seems to be tied to juveniles. And so therefore it's awfully hard through the court system to do anything with juveniles. It's nearly impossible at times. It may be such a thing that since we own our utilities and we are the provider of water and electric, that we create an ordinance, work with Kimbeth to create an ordinance to where if you damage our property somehow, that we could penalize you either by a fine assessed onto your utility bill, or maybe even limiting whether we're going to provide you power. Because we're not required to provide you power, we're not required to provide you water. And if this is a means that we get somebody's attention and they quit vandalizing our property at our parks, and anywhere else here in the community, that might be an avenue to look at. I don't know if you'd be interested in me talking to Ken Beth about that, but we have to. There's a continual vandalism problem going on, and we need to figure something out. And we need to be a little bit on the creative side, and this might be the avenue to go.
Where's the vandalism at?
Weedman Park's a good one. Go up there and the guys fix a light. Next thing you know, you go back a day or two later and the light's busted all to heck. Just anywhere around town, Willard, we're just seeing vandalism. It's not all on city property, of course, but there again, if it's the same ones, if we tie it to the same ones, and the parents don't seem to have control or be able to do anything about it, there again, maybe this would be a tool. It's something to consider.
We know who the vandals are.
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
it's something to consider.
Well, I've seen it. There's a group of kids that seem to, I've seen them around, and I've seen some of their work and seen some of the stuff that they've done. And we need to have some sort of bite. We were, I had a kind of run in with some of this group a few months back.
Yes, you did. You came in.
Actually, one of them tried to assault me as I was running. I bit back, if you will. But I've seen these kids flipping off cars, and the cars stop, and adults yell at them, and then they say they're sorry profusely, and then as soon as the car goes down, they do it again to another car. I mean, these kids have no.
We've looked also, and we truly don't have anything on the books as far as when the parks actually close. We've always gone with state curfew, and so at the next council meeting, we're going to bring something back, an ordinance on park hours. So we need to get that one on the books. So there's times that people don't need to be in our parks.
Obviously, these kids have been in trouble, why can't we not
Yeah, we need
ban
to
them? That way, if they are caught there, they're not going home, they're going to jail.
Well, that's court action. I think that the only way that you'd be able to enforce that, Pat, would be through some type of a legal notice. And that's something that I can talk to Ken Beth about too, if that's what you'd like
I
to do.
don't see why you couldn't. I mean, if the children are the ones who damaged it, you can go back to the family and make them financially liable.
Generally speaking, that's how it works in any type of court
Would you have
action.
to go through
If
the,
you have
what
an
I'm asking is,
8-year-old
would you have to go through the power company? Why couldn't you just, we set up an ordinance that, if youth are, they're caught vandalizing, then, the parents are absolutely liable.
Isn't there a state law for something like
That's
that?
what I would,
For dealing with juveniles,
Well, dealing with the juveniles going back to the parents and everything?
yes.
There is a state law for that.
Yes, there is. Juveniles, if you're dealing like with an 8-year-old, an 8-year-old goes out and commits a crime under the Juvenile Court Act, then generally that'll fall back onto the parents' responsibility. The only problem with that is that sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, is what that saying goes, and so this would be another avenue to get people's attention. There again, it's just an idea.
To deny them utilities, or is what you're saying, that's the avenue you're talking about?
Yes.
If I understand you right.
Doesn't necessarily mean that you would ever use it, but if you had it on the books, if it was legal according to our legal counsel, then there's nothing any worse, I would assume, than sitting in the dark. Now, obviously, during cold weather months, you can't do anything about it. That would be different, but
The lights are on and they're at the park.
I would say, this is just my opinion, I would pursue it, because, these kids, these 12 or 13-year-old kids are gonna be 15, then they're gonna be 16, then they're gonna be 17. We have an obligation to protect this community, and if these,
well, if our legal counsel says he doesn't have any objections, he doesn't see any objections to doing it, other communities, and you talk about other communities, Willard, and why they do this and why they do that, other communities may go, it's too bad we don't have the power plant or can't regulate it somehow, so.
it's only protection if they damage city property, because what do we have, the mass flattening of the tires last year, or anything like that? It's a group of kids.
I just, myself, as a taxpayer, I get tired of going to Weedman Park and going up there and seeing the vandalism, and, I'm paying taxes like everybody else, and we just have to have another tool to be able to.
I agree with you. I get tired of hearing about kids getting beat up. I get tired of hearing about, these kids cussing and screaming and yelling, and it's just like, what? No wonder they do it, because we ain't got the balls, or excuse me, they don't have the intestinal fortitude to do anything about these little punks.
But the other thing too is, I go home at night because I'm too tired. It's too old, and I go home and I go to bed. I watch a little TV and go to bed. But I came back from something in the past, maybe a class I was taking in Champaign or whatever. And so I wanted to look and see where the police are at. I drove all over town. I drove every place I could think that they might be. I didn't see the cop car anyplace. It wasn't driving around. I went to the fairgrounds as much as I could go up there. I went out to Hucks. I went to where I've seen them park the car in the past and everything. Drove through the cemetery, and I'm just sorry. I don't see them around any place, and if we're going to have the police force, then they need to be patrolled up and down Main Street. They need to be visible, and if they're not visible, then people are going to start doing things, So I don't know I got my issue about this whole thing, you know how I feel about it, and, I think if you wanna do something like this, have an ordinance, you better start having somebody around, or there's no sense in having them around at all, you know, if they're not gonna be there. I don't, like I say, Larry, I drove all over any place I could think of in town. Where the hell were they at? I don't know where they're at.
Might have
We're out in the
been
country.
down to DeWitt County Jail. I mean, I don't know.
That could be that too, I don't know. But I doubt it, I doubt if
I mean,
they're.
I get out and ride around too. Well,
So, I'm checking things, I'm not looking for some of this stuff, sometimes I am, most of the time, I'm not looking, and I'll see more by not looking for it, than I will going out and trying to find it.
That's the best way to find it, is not look for it.
I got a business down here, I got a window on the world down there, I can see everything that goes on, and why does he know that? Well, I don't have to go very far, I can sit there and,
It won't take long to find them if we took matters in their own hands.
I got a solution for that too, tell you about that after.
What I think we're encouraging you is if we can sharpen our teeth, I think that would be good. And then we can debate it at that time.
Okay.
If that's the option. So any questions to the city manager's report? Any non-agenda items and other business?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did Calvin go to Waterco conference? Do you know what I mean by that?
No, he did not.
You know what I mean by that?
No, but he has not been to the conference.
It was a conference I ran into down in Springfield on water distribution and everything. I'm sure he got notice of it in some way because I saw too many communities down there when I was at the Crown Plaza Motel close to us, so he probably had. And it would be good if he did something.
When was it?
When was it? About 2 weeks ago. And it would have been good if he had. And we're talking about all the funding we have to do or money we need for certain things. If we're a little short on money, talk to EPA. They have a revolving fund to get things rolling for us, and so maybe we ought to take a look at that too if we feel.
I would assume, to answer your question, that he knew about it because Illinois Rural Water sends out notices for anything of that nature.
It might not have been, it could have been, they could have done it maybe, I don't know who would have done it for sure.
But I will tell you that in order to save money from engineering, he's been going down on Richardson Street and personally overseeing that, so we don't have to pay for the engineering. So he might have known about it and elected not to go.
Okay, that's fine. The other thing too is I'm reading this little municipal law advisor that we got in our packet and emails. We're all supposed to have an email on file so people can get in touch with us. Do we have that? No, probably not. I don't have one. Do you have one that everybody can find?
I'm going to.
It is by April 1st. Yeah, this year we saw that. And, yeah,
But the other thing,
we have a spot on the website that lists the councilman and their email address if provided. Before it was just by whether or not you turned it in. Right now it is a law that we need to have those on file.
Okay.
And give those to Lynn and he'll put those under your name.
Okay.
Any
I'll get
other
another one, I'm not gonna have it once I got it.
Any other non-agenda items? I have one, yes. The Fair Board, we need to set up a meeting this evening with them. They've called, they've addressed some of the issues. Now it's time to work on some of the other issues that have come up. So I can stop by first thing in the morning. You give me I was thinking Friday evening, if that'll work for you. Your schedule this week? Do you have an evening available? Not Friday evening, apparently.
Out of baseball and softball games, but I'll go and we'll get something arranged.
All right. Just let me, I don't know, if you know an evening right now, that way I can tell them. It's up to you.
Tomorrow evening, it's supposed to rain.
Well, they too.
Is 8 o'clock too late?
I don't care, Mayor, if you just.
Let me see, because they're gonna, I told them to call me tomorrow morning,
Okay.
and then that way we have it on the schedule, and then
Okay.
we discuss this with them, that's it. So if there are no other non-agenda items in other business, we do have one public address to the council. Tim, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be right there. Visual aid here.
So I'm gonna step a little closer to you.
Yes, sir.
This concerns the objects, placement, and proximities of my backyard, located in the rear of 212 West Green Street in this fair city. You all know John Eads. He's my neighbor. He resides at 210 West Green, the Eads family. I am Tim Hannon. I think everybody at least knows, has seen my mug before. And I live next to the Eads family at 212 West Green. This is an alley that runs behind our property. I have egress to my property from the line. My lot is 40 feet wide. The scale of my drawing, gentlemen, is 1/4 inch equals 1 inch, if that helps. And perhaps, if you have any questions, shout it out. I've got measuring devices. I've got an architect's rule here hidden in my lapel.
Yes, sir.
Now, here is what I believe is an ash tree. But don't hold me to it because it hasn't blossomed yet, or it hasn't leaved out yet, so I can't get a look at the leaves, and I forgot to do it last year because it wasn't bugging me last year. This is my neighbor's fence. This is the Kilpatrick family across the alley. Their lot is 80 feet wide. John Eads' lot is 80 feet wide. This is an architectural symbol that means an abbreviated distance. And it's 55 feet from Bill Kilpatrick's property line to William Street over there. The Methodist Church sits right here. Everybody
Yes.
able to visualize where we are? Okay. Now, I'm a licensed general contractor. I've held a license for 13 or 15 years. I've genuinely lost count. In order for me to get my truck and trailer, because I cannot park it on the street, that's against city ordinances, and get inside and park inside, I don't have a visual aid for this, but imagine here's my pickup truck. It's 18 feet long, and attached to the end of it, this lot actually goes out to about here, okay? I can't, sorry for the pun, it's not
It's okay.
my truck and back my trailer with tools because of Bill Kilpatrick's fence. So if I were to pull in this way, okay, and try and cant that, I'll never be able to get out, I'll never be able to get in. So I am forced to come in this way from the Methodist Church, down this alley, pull back here. This is open, by the way, on the other side of Bill's workshop. He just put that really cool little workshop up there. And now this lot is open. I don't have to worry about hitting any trees, shrubbery, fence, nothing. Then I'm able to back my trailer, my tool trailer and materials trailer, and my pickup truck into my lot, park them, and I've got access. I can pull right back out. But I have to be able to come by this tree. This tree becomes a problem. It's not just my problem, it's ours. It's ours. I'm not here to sharpen my own axe. I want to sharpen everybody's axe. This tree, I don't have it drawn on here, but the 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. It's 6 feet wide. It's 5 feet from one side to the other. That's a big tree. I have photographs in my phone if you want to look at it, but I did what's called in art direction. I worked in the studios for 30 years. They send you out, you got a tree, you got a mountain, you got a whatever, so you set up a scale by yourself with your tape. Okay, and that's what I did. I walked 90 feet from this tree to the other side of my lot into Vince Russell's property, and at a 90-foot chute was able to deduct deduced that this tree, 10 feet, I stuck a pole up there with a red bucket on top of it. At the top of that red bucket is 10 feet, of course. Every 2 inches is 10 feet. I measured 16 inches from the base of the tree to the top of the tree. That's 80 feet of tree.
Okay.
This is a lot of tree. It's on Farmer City land. It's an obstruction, and in addition, though I'm not here to scream that the sky is falling and shake my tail feathers, I'm not Chicken Little. But to get one of our new fire truck down this alley, if it had to address the back of the Kilpatrick property, the back of the Eads property, the back of my property, or, and I don't know this neighbor over here yet. I mean, we wave, but I don't know their name. They would have to come in here. And that tree, there's also a shed here, and John, a storage shed that John has there.
So this tree in the alley itself, the
It's-
roadway itself, or
It's,
on the side?
it's in the alley. Now, it has compromised the line and grown into the Kilpatrick property, but its taproot would be right here.
Your request is that the city remove the tree?
Yes, that we take a look at it and see, it's a liability. This is to the benefit of many concerns.
Okay.
Those that are immediate to my parking a tool trailer, and then those that have to do with the fire district, those limbs which are already starting to part. This is an old tree at the junctures, the Ys. One of them has already lost a 12-inch limb that came off and fell into Bill's property, ruined the fence. He had to put the fence back up. And so there, you know, it's like I said, I'm not just here
Yeah.
to grind at my axe.
Nobody, the property is not owned by anybody in
No,
particular,
this
so
is
no,
the,
yeah,
this
that's
is
what I'm saying.
the, this is the.
So
old
they don't
alley.
have any way that they can actually come in and actually remove the tree, so I think.
Oh, yes, they do.
Well,
Sure. A professional tree remover.
No, that's
Mr.
not what I
Mayor.
mean. I mean, no landowner around that tree has the right to go on that
No.
land to
No,
remove
no.
that tree.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I will definitely go out there, sir, and take a look and, discuss this with the city manager, and it may be a couple weeks before we bring it
Right.
back to the council.
And now, I
but-
did speak to John Eads. He has no compunction, no complaints. He'd love to see the tree gone too. He uses the alley to park his fishing boat, to access his machinery and stuff. And so this neighbor, Bill, gets no shade from that tree on his house.
And with the existing ordinance, you're saying you can't park on the street, you need to come in that way too?
Well, see, I mean, there's other liabilities.
Okay.
So as a contractor, my insurance company is saying, okay, so if we've got you on a rider, $100,000 rider in addition to your $500,000 or your $1 million policy, extant policy, and they find out that you're parked, well, I'd have to do another one of these abbreviations here, but from the sidewalk, my property side of the sidewalk, I don't own anything out there. The city of Farmer City owns that, and I can't park my equipment and my property out there.
Can we have that? Or do you, I mean,
You're that impressed with the drawing, Mr.
I
Mayor?
love the drawing, but what I'm gonna do is go out there with the city manager
Sure.
and see what we can do, so, but, yes, sir.
Give me
thank
a
you.
call, I'd love to.
Sure
I'd love
will.
to-
I'm actually probably thinking Thursday morning, so I'll just let you know. That's kind of the way my schedule works. I'll have to actually confirm on my calendar or what have you, so.
6:30, 7?
And does that time exist?
You're running that.
I run at that time. That's like, so, but yes, sir, thank you for your time.
And I would
appreciate it.
very much love to accompany you
That,
and show you
absolutely.
what I'm up against
So,
and what we are up against. Now, you have my number on that.
Yes, I do, it's on the
Mr.
sheet of paper
Mayor.
right there. Yes,
Feel
sir.
free to scribble it on here if that makes it easier for you to carry or
It'll
state.
probably, yeah, it'll probably
whatever you
stay
want
in
to
here, so Tim, I look forward to it, thank you, sir.
do. Okay, and thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Is there any, no, actually, that was entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call it,
McKinley,
Yes.
Pearl, Dickens,
yes.
Harn,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Motion carried.